For years, we believed we had found a miracle. 7 Earth-sized worlds orbiting a single star. A second solar system. A second chance. A place where humanity could start over when this old cage finally collapses. But the closer we look, the more the dread grows. Our Stone Age software craves a promised land, a fresh, green pasture to gather from. But modern reality is slapping us in the face with a naked truth. These planets are real. They are rocky. They are perfectly sized. But that is all they are. Everything else about them is shattering humanity's delusions. What if these aren't new Earths, but warnings? What if we haven't found a new home, but a cosmic graveyard where life has failed in 7 different ways? 7 planets, 7 hopes, and perhaps 7 lethal traps that the player abandoned to rot billions of years ago. In 2017, NASA announced TRAPPIST-1, and the world held its breath. 40 light-years away, a small, dim red dwarf star clutching 7 Earth-sized planets. 7 worlds. 7 chances. The scientific data painted a paradise, orbits ranging from 1.5 to 19 days, a gravitational resonance so precise it's breathtaking. Each planet's orbit is locked to the next in a sequence of perfect mathematical motion. But stop for a moment. Your Stone Age instinct sees repetition as safety. But your modern intellect should feel a shiver. In a universe naturally teeming with chaos, collisions, and destruction, why has a system remained so absurdly stable for billions of years? This stability doesn't look like a natural ecosystem. It looks like the gears within a machine. Too aligned, too precise, too controlled. Scientists call it harmony. I call it eternal confinement. In physics, this level of stability is incredibly fragile. A tiny shift, a stray asteroid, and the entire system should collapse into chaos. But TRAPPIST-1 doesn't. It stands firm, repeating its monotonous rotations like a line of code stuck in an infinite loop. Do you feel the suffocation? It's the same way you repeat your life every day: wake up, work, consume, sleep. A fake stability maintained by a system you have zero control over. We call it a stable life, but in reality, it's just a well-maintained cage. Why hasn't it collapsed yet? What if TRAPPIST-1 isn't a naturally evolved system, but one forced into stability? A project where the player set the parameters so tight that no planet could ever break its orbit. But there is a brutal philosophical truth. The more rigid a structure is, the more catastrophic its fracture. This precision isn't a gift for life. It's a trap. When one gear begins to wear down, when the host star starts to exhaust itself, the entire illusion of the 7 Earths will crumble faster than you can pray. We are looking at a machine running its final laps before being decommissioned. You see hope. I see a countdown clock ticking toward 0. Look at those 7 planets again. They are too close. So close that if you stood on one, you could see the surface of the next with terrifying clarity. Like cells sharing a wall in a massive solitary confinement block. You can see your neighbor, but you can never touch them. TRAPPIST-1 is not the future of humanity. It is an abandoned experimental model where mathematical perfection hides a chilling truth. Life cannot sprout in a cage this narrow. We once dreamed of shimmering oceans under the crimson sun of TRPT-1. But the physical reality tells a far more brutal story. All 7 planets sit closer to their host star than Mercury does to our Sun. This proximity is not a warm embrace. It is a gravitational vice. It has strangled their rotation, forcing them into a state known as tidal locking. Imagine a world with no sunrise, no sunset. A world permanently torn in two. One side forever faces the star, enduring the relentless scorching of infrared radiation. Temperatures high enough to vaporize solid rock. The other side, eternally plunged into frozen darkness, where temperatures drop to levels that freeze any hope of life. This is not a planet. This is a slaughterhouse, and a morgue stitched together. Scientists once sparked hope of a twilight zone, a fragile strip of land caught between two extremes. A place where temperatures might allow liquid water. A narrow paradise. But that is the most sadistic deception of all. In that thin sliver, the atmosphere, if it even exists, would be twisted by supersonic storms. The terrifying temperature gradient between the two hemispheres creates a destructive engine, sweeping away anything that tries to take root. If life exists there, it is not free to evolve. It is imprisoned, compressed into a border as thin as a razor's edge. It cannot advance toward the light without being incinerated. It cannot retreat into the dark without being frozen. An existence throttled by hopeless waiting. We call TRAPPIST-1 a second solar system. But the truth is, this is a thermal dungeon. Life requires flow. It requires freedom across the entire planetary surface. But here, the very structure of the cosmos has stripped that right away. What if habitability isn't about distance from a star, but the right to move? These 7 planets are not 7 opportunities. They are 7 solitary cells where reality has been nailed to a fixed position. Look at that dim twilight strip once more. Do you see a sanctuary? I see a noose tightening around any creature unfortunate enough to be born in that rift between light and shadow, a life created only to witness its own collapse from both sides. The heart of this system is a red dwarf star, smaller than our sun, cooler, and twice as old. At nearly 10 billion years old, it has witnessed the rise and fall of the cosmos longer than almost anything we know. But do not mistake age for benevolence. TRPIST-1 is not a nurturing mother. It is a patient assassin. Data from the James Webb Space Telescope just threw a bucket of ice water on humanity's hopes. Inner planets like TRPIST-1b and C possess almost no atmosphere. They are mere barren rocks, stripped of their protective layers, exposed to the eternal wrath of X-ray and ultraviolet radiation. Look at our own Mars. It once had water, an atmosphere, and the promise of a beginning before the solar wind stripped it all away. But in TRPIST-1, that tragedy is 10,000 times more violent. Red dwarfs are notorious for their instability. Their sudden stellar flares are like repeated slashes to the atmospheres of their planets. For 10 billion years, these worlds have been cooked, in a massive radioactive microwave. Without an atmosphere, without pressure, liquid water vanishes in an instant, magnetic shields shatter. Any hope for life, if it ever flickered, was incinerated into ash long before humans even learned to stand upright. But there is a chilling detail that science rarely dares to mention. This arrangement is too perfect for a ritual of torment. Why are 7 planets locked into such tight orbits, exposed like sitting ducks for their host star? It doesn't look like the random evolution of nature. It looks like the experimental playground of some higher power. An arena where planets were placed in the harshest conditions to see how long they could endure before being crushed. A simulation game that has run for too long, and the player has long since walked away, leaving this assassin star to leisurely execute what remains. If life ever sprouted here, what is it now? Perhaps not civilizations, but merely fossilized traces buried under radioactive, poisoned soil. Souls imprisoned in a system with no exit, watching their skies being stripped away day by the very sun they once worshipped. We are looking at a brilliant red cosmic graveyard, a place where life was sentenced to death by the very entity that gave it birth, before it ever had a chance to begin. Among the 7 grim chess pieces, one stands apart. TRAPPIST-1. It sits perfectly within the habitable zone. Its density mirrors Earth's. Its size is a flawless match for a rocky world. In theory, this is the Holy Grail, a place where liquid water could flow. And in the latest spectral analysis, scientists caught something, a subtle oscillation, traces of methane. On Earth, methane is the breath of life. It's a byproduct of microbes, proof of a functioning world. But at a distance of 40 light years, light can be the ultimate deceiver. Methane can also be born from lifeless chemical reactions, from toxic volcanic eruptions or violent geological interactions. A signal is not an answer. It is a trap. What if this universe has the ability to generate false signals? Traces that look exactly like life, perfectly mimicking biological markers, but in reality are just cold chemical reactions in a massive test tube. Ask yourself, are we truly finding life, or are we drawing it from fragments of information? We aren't observing that planet. We are merely interpreting light. Tiny variances in the spectrum, shattered bits of data that our hope-starved brains mold into a second Earth. This is cognitive torture. It's like wandering a desert and seeing a mirage of a lake. The closer you get, the further it retreats, leaving you to die of thirst in a dry reality. TRAPPIST-1 might just be a mirror reflecting humanity's fear of loneliness. A signal sent out from a dead system, designed to look alive, to lure the curious into an eternal trap. Look at the perfection of that signal once more. Why does it appear exactly when we are most desperate? Perhaps this is no coincidence. Perhaps this system is programmed to emit false pulses. A project by the controller to test how far low-level beings like us will go to chase a mirage. We aren't exploring the universe. We are being led by the nose through the dark corridors of a fabricated reality. A place where life is just an algorithm used to decorate a cosmic graveyard. How do you know what you're seeing is real? Or more accurately, how do you know you aren't the one deluding yourself, just to avoid facing the terrifying silence of the void? TRAPPIST-1 might not have life. It could be an echo of a civilization that collapsed long ago, or worse, a pre-installed transmitter designed to keep us in hopeless waiting. There is something about TRAPPIST-1 that commands attention in a deeply unsettling way. It is the structure. 7 planets, all tightly packed, all locked in absolute orbital resonance. A system where gravitational relationships don't just exist, they are synchronized. Science explains this as the result of migration within a protoplanetary disk. Planets forming far out, drifting inward, and locking together. A logical model backed by computer simulations. But even within that framework, TRAPPIST-1 stands isolated because it is too efficient, too streamlined, too finished. In nature, chaos is the rule. Collisions, ejected planets, skewed orbits. These are the signatures of vitality. But here, everything is so silent and precise it's haunting. Why are 7 planets arranged with such clinical optimization? This efficiency doesn't feel like a natural garden. It feels like a production line fine-tuned to not waste a single millimeter of space. Many have asked, can this level of precision truly be the product of random processes? It doesn't necessarily have to be artificial, but it cannot be fully explained by the laws we currently know either. It poses a terrifying possibility that we are looking at a system where our definition of natural has failed. When complexity reaches this level, the boundary between a large-scale energy system and an intentional blueprint begins to dissolve. What if TRAPPIST-1 isn't a solar system, but a power relay station? Or worse, a massive culture farm of some higher power, where each planet is a laboratory glass cage placed side by side for easy observation and control. Why does this harmony make us so uneasy? Because deep down, we know that life requires freedom, variation, and error. A system that is too perfect is a dead system. A machine that can only repeat what it was programmed to do. Are we admiring a mathematical wonder, or are we staring at an architectural relic abandoned by cosmic architects? Those who built this 7-tiered trap with absolute precision then walked away, leaving these gears to grind against each other for billions of years. The efficiency of TRAPPIST-1 is the most brutal reminder of our status. We crave to find life, but what we find instead is a system optimized to the point of stifling all living potential. This system was not built for us. It wasn't even built to last forever. It is simply waiting for the slightest glitch in that resonance to self-destruct and erase every trace of a failed experiment. When we search the universe, we often look for signals, radio waves, light patterns, anything that suggests intelligence. But what if that assumption is flawed? Observed data. We have not detected confirmed signals from advanced extraterrestrial civilizations. The universe, at least so far, appears silent. Scientific interpretation. This could mean many things. That intelligent life is rare, that it doesn't last long, or that it doesn't communicate in ways we recognize. Hypothesis. Advanced systems may not announce themselves. They may not transmit. They may not even be noticeable, because their scale or their purpose doesn't require visibility. Like highways built over ant colonies, the ants don't understand the structure above them. They don't even perceive it. What if we're not being ignored out of fear, but out of irrelevance? What if the universe contains systems so advanced that they operate beyond our detection, not by hiding, but by existing in ways we don't recognize? And if that's true, how many structures have we already seen, without understanding what they are? A warning, not a destination. TRAPPIST-1 began as a symbol of hope. 7 Earth-sized planets, a nearby system, a possible future. But the deeper we look, the more fragile that hope becomes. Observed data, a volatile star, planets stripped of atmospheres, extreme tidal locking, narrow habitable zones. Scientific interpretation. Even under optimistic models, long-term habitability in such a system is uncertain. Conditions are harsh, unstable, easily disrupted. Hypothesis. Perhaps systems like this are not rare failures, but common outcomes. Worlds that almost worked, but didn't. And that shifts the perspective, because Earth works, not by default, but by balance. A stable star, a protective magnetic field, a thick atmosphere, liquid water across a dynamic surface, everything aligned. Just right. One stronger star, one weaker magnetic field, one small difference, and Earth would look exactly like them. A dry surface, a thin sky, a world locked between extremes. We search the stars for another home, another Earth, another chance. But systems like TRAPPIST-1 suggest something else. That habitable worlds are not just rare, they are fragile, easily broken, difficult to maintain, and perhaps temporary. So the question changes. Are we searching for another home or staring at a preview of our future? Because somewhere out there, 7 planets orbit a quiet star, perfectly aligned, perfectly stable, and completely unlivable. Not a destination, but a warning.